The drive to my parents' house was once a journey of pure anticipation, my heart a drumbeat of joy. I was Evelyn, a nurse in the bustling heart of Chicago, and the weight of years of relentless dedication, of every sacrifice imaginable, had finally lifted. I had achieved the impossible, a substantial sum, enough for the down payment on a home, a sanctuary of my own. I picture their faces, beaming with pride, as I shared my triumph. Little did I know, this gathering, meant to be a celebration, would shatter everything I believed about love and family, turning joy into a chilling abyss of betrayal. My quest to amass this fortune wasn't merely about money, it was a defiant declaration to myself that I could forge a future from sheer will. I had vowed to claim my own home, a promise that became my unwavering North Star through countless arduous shifts and lonely nights. While my peers savored after-work drinks, I embraced extra hours, transforming weekends into back-to-back double shifts. Invitations to dinners and movies became distant echoes, politely declined in favor of another 12-hour stretch. The financial gains were undeniable, but the cost to my spirit was profound. My living situation mirrored my singular focus. Others my age ascended to chic apartments or acquired sleek new cars, but I remained anchored in a cramped studio, its paper-thin walls a constant reminder of my meager existence. My car, a faithful but faltering sedan with a broken air conditioner and a stubbornly stuck passenger window, ferried me reliably to work. Each month, without a car payment, was another brick laid in the foundation of my dream. Shopping became a military operation, a strategic raid on thrift stores for second-hand scrubs and carefully curated consignment finds. Meals were a Spartan affair, endless pasta, canned soup, and a meticulous accounting of every coupon. The deepest cuts, however, were social. I missed significant milestones, my college roommate's wedding, countless birthday celebrations, baby showers, and weekend getaways. My friends, understandably, drifted away, their calls growing less frequent. I understood. When one consistently retreats from the currents of normal social life, relationships inevitably recede. But the most insidious drain on my resolve came from my own family. My parents, Victor and Serafina, had perfected a subtle art of financial depletion over the years. Small loans, 20 here, 50 there, sometimes 100 for a fabricated car repair or medical bill, always promised, never repaid. I tried to erect boundaries, but their pleas, cloaked in familial expectation, often crumbled my defenses. In a move I then deemed prudent, I opened a clandestine savings account at a separate bank, a secret sanctuary unknown to Victor and Serafina. My everyday checking remained at the familiar local credit union, allowing me to truthfully claim a low balance when their financial queries arose, shielding my burgeoning nest egg from their gaze. My relationship with my savings balance grew obsessive. I monitored it daily, watching the numbers creep upwards. A surge of exhilaration when it crossed the 50,000 mark, a powerful sense of purpose at 70,000. That spring, I allowed myself a single, defiant celebration. A glass of wine at home, gazing at online real estate listings. The neighborhood I envisioned was tranquil, tree-lined, a mere 15 minutes from the hospital. Modest, well-kept homes, promising schools for the family I yearned to build. I had driven through it countless times, memorizing every garden, every sold sign. I'd even spoken to a real estate agent, pre-qualified for a mortgage. When the balance finally tipped past $80,000, a wave of pure, overwhelming joy washed over me. I had done it. Discipline, sacrifice, they weren't just words, they were the architects of opportunity. I was ready to transition from dreaming to doing, and Thanksgiving, with its promise of family togetherness, felt like the perfect moment to announce my achievement. I imagined Victor and Serafina's proud smiles, my brother Marcus's surprise and respect, perhaps even inspiring others in our family. How spectacularly naive I was. The air shifted the moment my car crunched onto their driveway. The house itself seemed to hum with an unfamiliar energy. The front door, once faded, gleamed a rich navy. New shutters adorned the windows, and the landscaping, recently professional, boasted expensive shrubs and a pristine stone pathway. I had visited just weeks prior, and none of these transformations existed. Victor and Serafina were notoriously frugal, the kind who'd famously duct tape a leaky roof. These blatant signs of significant expenditure sparked a flicker of curiosity, quickly dismissed as a well-deserved, long-term saving project for home improvements. Stepping inside, my confusion deepened into an unsettling unease. The living room was unrecognizable. The worn, beige carpet of 15 years was gone, replaced by gleaming hardwood. The ancient sectional sofa had vanished, supplanted by a matching set of rich burgundy leather. Even the coffee table and end tables, once particle board, now gleamed with solid wood. Serafina greeted me with an unervingly effusive hug, her eyes alight with a giddiness I hadn't witnessed in years. "Evelyn, sweetheart, welcome home. Come see what we've done with the place." Her usual reserved, almost pessimistic demeanor was replaced by an almost frantic animation. Victor, usually a man of quiet nods and grunts, was whistling in the kitchen, a sound I'd never heard from him. When I entered the kitchen, I froze. It was a complete overhaul. Granite countertops where laminate once lay, cabinets refaced in rich cherry wood, gleaming stainless steel appliances, including a monstrous refrigerator that seemed fit for a commercial establishment. "Dad, this is incredible!" I exclaimed, running my hand over the smooth granite. "When did you do all this?" He puffed out his chest, radiating pride. "Finished last month. Got a great deal because we paid cash. No financing charges, no interest. Sometimes it pays to be smart with money." The comment grated. My parents never had large amounts of cash sitting around. Victor, a retired mechanic, and Serafina, a former part-time secretary, lived comfortably but modestly. This level of renovation would easily cost $50,000, perhaps $60,000. Marcus arrived then with his wife, Cassandra. My brother looked distinctly uncomfortable, avoiding my gaze as he headed directly for the refrigerator. This was unlike his usual boisterous greetings. Cassandra, too, seemed on edge, fidgeting with her purse, repeatedly checking her phone. When I complimented the renovations, she offered a tight, brittle smile. "How nice it must be," she murmured, "to afford such things." Her tone held an edge I couldn't quite decipher. Dinner conversation felt surreal. My parents peppered their talk with vague allusions to new opportunities and smart investments. Serafina mused about finally affording the finer things, while Victor expounded on family helping family, declaring, "What belongs to one of us belongs to all of us." These philosophical pronouncements were utterly alien to their pragmatic nature. More changes surfaced throughout the house, expensive drapes, hardwood extending into the hallway, even high-end light fixtures. "So, how did you manage all this?" I asked during dessert, striving for casualness. "You must have been saving for ages." My parents exchanged a glance, held a fraction too long. Serafina's smile flickered. "Oh, you know, honey, when you truly want something, you find a way. Opportunities arise when you least expect them." Victor nodded sagely. "Exactly. Sometimes the money you need is closer than you think. Family takes care of family and everything works out." Their cryptic responses churned my stomach. Something was profoundly wrong. The timeline gnawed at me. Just weeks ago, none of this existed. Such extensive work takes time. The coincidence felt too sharp, too precise. Marcus cleared his throat, excusing himself to the bathroom. Cassandra, claiming she needed to retrieve something from the car, followed him swiftly. Their hasty retreat left me alone with my parents, still radiating self-satisfaction as they catalogued their improvements. That's when the decision solidified within me. I needed to check my bank account. No specific suspicion, just a pervasive wrongness. I craved the reassurance of seeing my carefully hoarded savings, untouched and secure. I excused myself, feigning a trip to the restroom. Instead, I ducked into Victor's small home office and pulled out my phone. My hands trembled as I launched my banking app. The Wi-Fi lagged, and the loading icon spun endlessly. Those few seconds stretched into an eternity. I expected to see my familiar balance, 80,000 and change, ready to screenshot, perhaps even show my family the tangible proof of my 5 years of sacrifice. The numbers that appeared made no sense. I blinked, convinced of a technical glitch. The balance, $247.83. Impossible. I had checked it days ago. Everything had been normal. My heart hammering against my ribs, I clicked on the transaction history. What I saw made my legs buckle. I slumped into Victor's desk chair to prevent a collapse. Over recent months, a systematic depletion. Large sums, thousands at a time, had been withdrawn. Each transaction bore the chilling authorization, Serafina, joint account holder. The truth slammed into me with physical force. Years ago, I had added my mother as an emergency contact and joint account holder. I was in my late 20s, and it seemed a reasonable safeguard. Should anything happen to me, she could access my affairs. I had utterly forgotten. I scrolled through the details, horror mounting. The dates and amounts aligned perfectly with the renovations. A payment to Wilson's Home Improvement, multiple transactions at hardware stores, a large sum for Granite Solutions, another for Metropolitan Appliance Center, even Elite Flooring Services. My mother had been systematically siphoning my life's work, financing their lavish home improvements. This wasn't an impulsive act. It was a calculated, premeditated theft, ongoing for months. While I toiled in double shifts and subsisted on instant noodles, Serafina was spending my future on granite and stainless steel. The betrayal was a knife twisting in my gut. This was more than $80,000 gone. It was the obliteration of trust, the foundational bond between parent and child. I had trusted Serafina with access, never conceiving of such a violation. The thought that she had planned this, even as I shared my dreams of home ownership, made me physically ill. I tried the bank's customer service, but it was a holiday. Fraud prevention was closed. I was trapped, in this house, with the very people who had stolen my entire future with no immediate recourse. I sat in that chair, processing the wreckage. 5 years of sacrifice, of denying myself every small pleasure, of living like a recluse to build a better life, all vanished. My parents had taken it, spent it on their comfort, and celebrated their cleverness all evening. The cruelty was in my own naivety. As I checked my account, they were downstairs, laughing, congratulating themselves on their scheme. They had stolen my money, then invited me to admire their plunder. The audacity was breathtaking. I forced my trembling hands to take screenshots, the balance, the history, every date, every amount. Evidence. For the confrontation, for the police report I was already formulating in my mind. This was no mere family squabble. This was theft, unadorned and undeniable, and I would treat it as such. Walking back to the dining room felt like a condemned march. My family still lingered at the table, Victor and Serafina beaming, Marcus and Cassandra picking at dessert in strained silence. They looked up as I entered. In Serafina's eyes I saw it, she knew. No surprise, no confusion at my shattered expression. Just a slight tightening around her eyes, a flicker that said she had anticipated this moment. "We need to talk," I said, my voice a fragile whisper, words like broken glass. "All of us. Right now." I held up my phone, displaying the devastating screenshot. "Where is my money?" $80,000 was in this account a few days ago. Now there's 247. I want to know where it went. Serafina didn't deny it. Instead, she straightened her shoulders, chin raised, an expression of defiance, almost pride, I had never witnessed. "We needed it, Evelyn. We've lived in this outdated house for decades, making do. You earn good money, and you don't have a family to support. We figured you could spare it." "Spare it, Mom." My vision blurred with incandescent rage. That was my entire life savings. 5 years of overtime, 5 years in that studio, 5 years of ramen noodles, so I could buy a house. "You didn't ask me. You just took it." Victor joined the defense, his tone equally shocking. "Now, Evelyn, don't be dramatic. We raised you. We fed you. We sheltered you for 18 years. We sacrificed plenty for you. It's not unreasonable to expect some of that investment to pay dividends." Investment pay dividends? I was shouting now, past caring who heard. "You stole from me. You plundered my private bank account and took every penny I had saved. That's not an investment. That's theft." Marcus finally spoke, and his words made everything worse. "Evelyn, I have to tell you something. They asked me for your banking information some time ago. They said they wanted to make a deposit as a surprise gift. I told them I didn't have it, and they should ask you directly. I thought they dropped it. Another betrayal. My brother had known. You knew they were planning something with my bank account, and you didn't warn me?" I didn't know they were going to take money out, Marcus retorted defensively. I thought they wanted to put money in. When they stopped asking, I figured they'd change their minds. Cassandra finally found her voice, a quiet tremor that shifted the tectonic plates of the room. Marcus, we have to tell her the rest. Evelyn, I overheard your parents discussing this around Easter. They were talking about how to access your account, how much they thought they could take without you noticing right away. I thought they were just fantasizing, but apparently they were making actual plans. Serafina's mask of righteousness finally fractured, revealing something ugly and offensive. Oh, so now everyone's going to gang up on us. We're the villains for trying to improve our living situation? Evelyn, you act like we committed some terrible crime, but all we did was borrow some money from our own daughter. Borrowed! I screamed. When were you planning to pay it back? When were you planning to tell me you borrowed it? This morning you were bragging about paying cash, about being so smart with money. You were spending my money and congratulating yourselves on being financially savvy. Victor's response was the moment I recognized I was dealing with strangers. You know what your problem is, Evelyn. You think you're better than us. You think because you went to nursing school and make decent money that you're somehow superior to the people who raised you. Well, let me tell you something, Missy. Everything you are, you owe to us. We created you. We shaped you. And we deserve to benefit from our investment. Investment, again. They literally viewed me as a business venture, owing them returns. I can't believe what I'm hearing. You're not even sorry. You're sitting here justifying stealing my entire life savings like it was your right to take it. Serafina leaned forward, a coldness in her gaze I had never seen. Right. You want to talk about rights? We have the right to expect gratitude from our children. We have the right to expect that our sacrifices will be acknowledged. You make good money, Evelyn. You'll save the money again. It's not like we left you with nothing. Before taxes, I shot back, and it took me 5 years to save that. 5 years of no social life, no vacations, no nice clothes, no decent apartment. 5 years of sacrifice that you just erased in a few months so you could have granite countertops. Marcus attempted to mediate, his words only fueling the fire. Look, maybe we can work something out. Maybe Mom and Dad can pay you back over time. Set up some kind of payment plan. Serafina laughed. A chilling, dismissive laugh. Pay her back? With what money? We're retired, Marcus. We live on Social Security and your father's pension. We don't have extra money lying around to pay back loans. Then you shouldn't have spent money you didn't have, I said, my voice now eerily calm. You shouldn't have stolen money that wasn't yours to spend. Victor surged from the table, his face a mask of scarlet fury. That's enough. You're being disrespectful and ungrateful. We're your parents, and you will not speak to us like this in our house. If you can't show us the respect we deserve, then maybe you should leave. The threat hung in the air, thick and poisonous. After plundering everything I had worked for, they were now threatening to cast me out of the family if I didn't passively accept their theft. It was emotional blackmail piled atop financial devastation, and it crystallized everything I needed to know about these people. Something fundamental shattered and reformed within me in that instant. The devastated, betrayed daughter evaporated, replaced by a woman I had never been before, one who refused to be a victim. I met Victor's red-faced, threatening gaze and felt a clarity I'd never experienced. You're absolutely right, Dad. I should leave, but not because I'm being disrespectful. I should leave because I'm done being stolen from, manipulated, and emotionally blackmailed by people who are supposed to love me. I pulled out my phone and began dialing. Serafina demanded to know what I was doing. I looked her directly in the eye as I answered. I'm calling the police. The room instantly transformed. Victor crashed back into his chair. Serafina's face went chalk white. Marcus started to protest, but I raised a hand, silencing him. The phone rang, and when the dispatcher answered, I spoke with chilling precision. I need to report a theft. My mother used her access to my bank account to steal $80,000 over the past few months. I have all the documentation, and I'm currently at the scene where the stolen money was spent. My parents looked as though they had been struck. Serafina began to babble about not involving the police in a family matter, but her words were a distant buzzing. I gave the dispatcher my parents' address, my contact information, An officer would arrive within the hour. While we waited, I made my second call. My childhood friend, Elena, now a lawyer specializing in family law, answered despite the holiday. I explained the situation, and she immediately offered advice. Document everything. Sign nothing, accept no promises. Evelyn, she said, her voice firm, this is serious criminal activity. Joint account holder or not, using someone else's money without their knowledge or consent for personal benefit is theft. Don't let them convince you this is a civil family matter. Press charges. My third call was to the bank's fraud prevention hotline. Emergency services were available. I reported the unauthorized use of my account, initiating a formal complaint. They confirmed that a joint account holder did not possess unlimited rights to drain an account, particularly without the primary holder's knowledge. Throughout these calls, my family sat in stunned silence. I believe they expected tears, pleas, eventual acceptance. They did not expect me to instantly treat this as the crime it was. Marcus finally found his voice. Evelyn, I know you're upset, but involving the police seems extreme. This is family. Can't we work this out ourselves? I looked at my brother, a man I had admired my entire life, and realized he valued family appearances over the felony our parents had committed. Marcus, they stole $80,000 from me. If a stranger had done this, you would absolutely expect me to call the police. The fact that they are parents doesn't make theft legal. Cassandra, to everyone's surprise, spoke in my defense. She's right, Marcus. What they did was wrong, and they're not even sorry. They're acting like Evelyn owes them this money. Serafina attempted one last manipulation, the tactic she'd employed since my childhood. Tears welled, her voice thick with false pathos. Evelyn, sweetheart, I never meant to hurt you. We just needed help, and we knew you loved us enough to want to help if we asked. But you didn't ask, I said, unmoved by her performance. You took, and if you knew I would want to help, why didn't you ask instead of stealing? Victor answered, his words peeling back the final layer of pretense. Because we knew you would say no. You've always been tight with money, always putting your own goals ahead of family needs. We knew you would find some excuse not to help us. There it was. They knew I would refuse to give them $80,000 for home improvements. So, they simply took it. They knew I was saving for a house, knew the monumental effort, and decided their desires superseded my dreams. Officer Kian arrived exactly an hour after my call. Professional and thorough, he took detailed statements, reviewed my bank records, photographed the renovated home funded by my stolen money, listening to my parents' justifications with an increasingly skeptical expression. When Victor attempted to explain it away as family money and accused me of vindictiveness, Officer Kian cut him off. Sir, regardless of family relationships, using someone else's bank account to make purchases without their knowledge or consent constitutes theft. The dollar amount involved makes this a felony. He arrested Victor and Serafina that night, in their beautiful, newly renovated kitchen, bought with my stolen future. They were handcuffed, read their rights. Marcus was aghast, pleading with me to drop the charges. But I was beyond manipulation. As they were led out of their house, Serafina turned to me, pure hatred blazing in her eyes. You'll regret this, Evelyn. You're destroying your own family over money that will never be able to pay back anyway. And that's when I spoke the words that would define the rest of our fractured relationship. You're right, Mom. You'll never be able to pay it back. But you're going to try anyway. Because this isn't over. Not by a long shot. The aftermath plunged me into the darkest period of my life, yet it was also the most profoundly empowering. Having my parents arrested was devastating. I had by choice become an orphan, severing ties with the people who had raised me because they had betrayed me in the most fundamental way. The initial nights were sleepless, a torment of rage and grief. At work, I functioned, but my colleagues observed the shadow that clung to me. I eventually confided in Bethany, my charge nurse and mentor. She listened with quiet amazement. Evelyn, she finally said, I've witnessed much family dysfunction, but what your parents did transcends normal problems. They didn't just steal your money, they stole your trust in the most basic human relationships. You're going to need professional help to navigate this. She was right. I sought Dr. Eris Thorne, a therapist specializing in family trauma and financial abuse. Yes, Financial abuse was a recognized form of maltreatment, and my parents' actions fit its definition precisely. Dr. Thorne helped me understand their behavior as part of a deeper pattern of entitlement and manipulation, likely present throughout my childhood, but which I had been too close to discern. Financial abuse often begins subtly, she explained. The small, unrepaid loans, the guilt trips about selfishness, the expectation that adult children prioritize family needs over their own goals. Your parents escalated to outright theft, but the groundwork was laid long ago. She was unequivocally right. In hindsight, the pattern was stark: constant requests, always framed as emergencies, always accompanied by guilt if I hesitated, making me feel selfish for wanting a future of my own. The legal proceedings moved forward. My parents were released on bail, their passports surrendered, forbidden from direct contact with me. Elena, my lawyer friend, took my case, filing both criminal charges for grand theft and a civil lawsuit for the return of the stolen funds, plus damages, interest, and legal fees. My parents' public defender attempted to argue that the joint account granted Serafina legal access. However, the prosecutor and Elena successfully demonstrated that joint access was intended for emergencies, not unauthorized, major personal expenditures. Their attempts to hide their actions, and their use of the money for luxury renovations, rather than necessities, severely weakened their defense. The most unexpected development came from within my own family. Marcus, initially defensive of our parents, began to see with clarity. He came to my apartment weeks later, haggard and ashamed. "Evelyn, I owe you an apology. I've been thinking about what they did, and I keep asking myself, would I ever take money from my kids' savings accounts to renovate my house? And the answer is absolutely not. What they did was wrong, and I should have supported you from the beginning." Marcus's change of heart meant everything. I had lost my parents, but I still had my brother. More significantly, Marcus offered to testify, confirming the conversation about accessing my account, which would help establish premeditation. Cassandra also came forward, revealing text messages she had saved from Easter, documenting their planning. "Your parents are talking about taking money from Evelyn's account for house renovations," one text to Marcus read. "This seems really wrong to me." But the deepest well of support came from unexpected corners of our extended family. Aunt Beatrice, my father's sister, called me, confessing that Victor and Serafina had done something similar to her decades earlier, a smaller-scale, medical emergency loan that was never repaid, met with indignation when she inquired. "I should have warned you," Aunt Beatrice admitted, "but I thought it was an isolated incident. I didn't want to cause family drama. Now I realize they've been doing this for years, just getting bolder each time." Other relatives surfaced with similar stories. Cousin Julian, whose car repair loan funded a vacation. Uncle Silas, who co-signed a credit card that was promptly maxed out and defaulted. A pattern of financial manipulation stretching back decades, and I had been their biggest score. Meanwhile, my parents confronted the grim harvest of their actions. They had spent money they didn't possess, believing I would either never notice or eventually forgive. Now, they faced felony charges, civil liability, and the stark reality of selling their newly renovated house to cover restitution. Their lawyer approached Elena with a plea deal, a reduced charge in exchange for full restitution, plus interest and damages, totaling around $95,000, more than their house was worth post-renovations. I faced a crucial decision: accept the plea, guaranteeing my money back with lighter criminal penalties for them, or push for the full felony charges, risking jail time for my parents, but no guarantee of financial recovery. Dr. Thorne guided my reflection. What do you need to feel justice has been served? Is severe legal consequence paramount, or is recovering your money the priority? I realized what I craved most was acknowledgement, not just legal, but personal, from my parents, that what they had done was profoundly wrong. The plea deal included a requirement for formal apology letters and mandatory financial counseling, which resonated more deeply than their incarceration. We accepted the plea, with one non-negotiable condition: no contact until full restitution was paid and all counseling requirements met. This was not about vengeance, but about protecting myself from further manipulation as they faced the consequences. A year later, my life was unrecognizable, imbued with lessons I never anticipated. The legal proceedings concluded. my parents pleading guilty to financial fraud, agreeing to pay $95,000. They were forced to take out a second mortgage, ensuring they would be paying for their crime for years to come. The money returned to my account in stages, each payment a small victory, not out of vindictiveness, but as a testament to the legal system's proper function. By the time the final payment arrived, my savings, thanks to interest and damages, surpassed its original sum. But the profound transformations were not financial. Dr. Thorne helped me recognize my parents' actions as the extreme manifestation of a lifetime of boundary violations and emotional manipulation. I had grown up in a family where my needs were secondary to their wants, where guilt and obligation were weapons, and saying no was betrayal. Learning to set healthy boundaries became my most vital new skill. I practiced saying no without guilt, prioritizing my well-being without believing it's selfish. I learned the crucial distinction between family loyalty and family dysfunction. I chose loyalty to myself and to those who genuinely respected my boundaries. My house hunt, once a pragmatic chore, became a celebration. With my savings restored and my credit intact, I found a beautiful 3-bedroom house in my dream neighborhood, complete with a garden, a fireplace, and a home office where I could manage my finances without fear. Marcus and Cassandra became my chosen family. Marcus, having confronted his own role in enabling dysfunction, vowed never again to remain silent in the face of mistreatment. Cassandra and I forged a deep friendship, bonded by our shared understanding of manipulation and our choice to resist it. My career thrived. Without the relentless stress of rebuilding stolen savings, I focused on professional growth. I was promoted to charge nurse, bringing increased responsibility and salary. For the first time, my career decisions were guided by interest, not just income maximization. The most astonishing change was my social life. Free from the financial isolation of years, I reconnected with old friends and embraced new connections. Many confessed they had worried about me, but hadn't known how to ask. I even began dating, encountering people with healthy family relationships, a revelation in itself. I had to learn what normal family dynamics looked like, what appropriate boundaries entailed, how disagreements could occur without manipulation or blackmail. It was like learning a new language. My parents completed their court-ordered counseling and wrote their apology letters. Seraphina's was perfunctory, centered on her own suffering. Victor's was more reflective, acknowledging his prioritization of his wants over my needs, understanding why I pressed charges. I chose not to respond, nor to resume contact. This was not about punishment or grudges, but about protecting the new life I had meticulously built and the healthy boundaries I had fought so hard to establish. Dr. Thorne affirmed this, emphasizing that true reconciliation demands genuine change from both parties, and I was under no obligation to re-enter situations that could cause me harm. The extended family members who had shared their own stories became an unexpected support network. We began regular survivors' dinners, a space to discuss family dysfunction without judgment, upholding each other and maintaining healthy boundaries. Sometime after buying my house, I used a portion of my restored savings for the vacation I had deferred for years. 2 weeks in Italy, beautiful hotels, exquisite food, buying what I desired without a single calculation of affordability. It was the first time in my adult life I had spent money on pure enjoyment, without a whisper of guilt. Sitting in a Roman cafe, I journaled about what I had learned. The most profound lesson: family is not solely defined by blood. It is defined by people who love you enough to respect your boundaries, who support your dreams instead of stealing them, who take responsibility for their own problems instead of expecting you to solve them. I also learned that standing up for yourself, no matter how difficult or painful, is not selfish. It is necessary. Allowing mistreatment helps neither party. It merely enables destructive behavior and teaches others you don't value yourself enough to demand respect. The financial lessons were equally vital. I learned to keep my savings utterly separate from any family access, regardless of apparent trustworthiness. Financial independence, I discovered, is more than just having money. It is about having control over your financial decisions. And the security of knowing no one can steal your future is worth more than any family relationship that demands vulnerability to theft. As I write this, I gaze from my home office at the garden I planted myself, in the house I bought with money earned through my own unwavering effort. My finances are robust, my career flourishes, and I am surrounded by people who respect me and champion my goals. It took one of the most agonizing betrayals of my life to reveal how much better life could be when I refused to accept mistreatment. The most important truth I absorbed is that genuine love does not demand the sacrifice of your dreams, your security, or your self-respect. Real love nurtures your growth, celebrates your achievements, and honors your boundaries. Anything less is not love, no matter how loudly family loyalty is proclaimed. Sometimes, the most loving act you can perform for yourself is to walk away from those who deem your well-being less important than their wants. Sometimes, the family you choose eclipses the family you were born into. And sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you becomes the doorway to the best life you never dared to imagine.